Well, welcome back to the Roadside Rescue YouTube channel. I'm Ernest, and here's my wife's new car. I'm gonna B swap it, well, mostly because it already has a B series motor in it. So we've got a B20 here. If you didn't see the previous episode, go ahead and check that out. I went and looked at this car for a customer who had hydrolocked the motor. Do you have the key? I'll borrow that for just a second, if that's all right. Okay. It's not that much compression. I might have something wrong. Well, my wife's car was crashed out and totaled a few months ago, and I saved the motor from that, so my plan of using this in a project this spring is coming to fruition, only not the kind of project I had imagined. But hey, that's gonna make a super cheap vehicle for my wife and kids, and it'll be real reliable. My wife and kids love their old CRV, and my kids especially were sad that they weren't gonna have their old car. But I've convinced them this is all right because they're gonna have a piece of it with them. Plus, I won't be afraid to take this thing on road trips. In the past, I was afraid to go on road trips with my family in case something happened to the car. I always knew I'd be on standby to fix it, but this one's in great shape. It's got 300,000 miles on the body. The motor was running good till it was filled up with too much oil. Oh boy. I think it's dead. So I'll just give you a discount on the call out, but yeah, so when you put too much oil in, it can cause something called a hydrolock, and it doesn't have compression, so looks like that probably happened.
If you were me, what would you do going forward?
So
is it pretty much just total, or?
Yeah, the junkyard will pay you $300 to tow this car off. In fact, I'm looking for a new car for my wife, and I literally just tore up her 99 CRV, and I have the motor from it. The junkyard and buy a new car because it's the same price. So, but I'll, yeah, like I said, I might offer you a little bit more for it. So I was able to make a deal and pick up this new car for my wife. The kids helped me tow it home. All we got to do is get started and get that new motor. So my plan for today is to get this motor out, and then hopefully one other day to get it in, and it'll be a good to go car. Let's get going. All right, well, I've got my new ratchet because I broke my ratchet in the junkyard a few weeks ago. So I went to Home Depot this morning to get a warranty. We found the old receipt, and they still couldn't warranty my Milwaukee ratchet for me, so I got a brand new one. I actually got the fuel version this time because the head of it's a little bit smaller, so it'll reach in some places a little bit easier. And it was only like $10 more. I'm a little upset that I didn't just get the money back or a new one for my old one, but I'm kind of glad I got to get a different ratchet anyways. Hopefully they'll give me a gift card. But that's a little ridiculous. Oh, that's nice and smooth. Well, you'll be hearing that ratchet from now on. Pretty nice. And I was recognized twice in town today, or at least people came up to me and talked to me. So if you ever see me out and about, feel free to say hi. I'll be getting some stickers at some point to carry around with me, but not yet. All right, I just had to grab some sockets. I don't really know where to start, so it's the age-old problem of just getting started on a big job. You got to do something to get started, so let's do it. You know what they say, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Nice. I'm gonna have to get used to the torque of this thing though, that's for sure. I think I'm gonna drain fluids first. So I'm gonna get a pan under here to drain this radiator. I think I saved the old radiator, at least it's new. But everything looks good. Just let this drain out slowly for the next 20-30 minutes. I'm trying to decide where I'm going to put all this stuff for the meantime. Probably just in the yard right here. Let's see, why not? Alright, let's take this battery out. This battery's dead, but the one from my wife's old car I've saved, and that one's fine. Yeah, it's faster and stronger. I'm glad I got this. Disclaimer, it's definitely faster, but after using it for a couple of weeks, it's definitely not stronger than the non-fuel version. Go. Bit of cracking on that, but it's not dry rotted all the way through yet. But that's like the only thing I've seen so far that I'm gonna replace. The rack and pinion I think is leaking on this too, because I was gonna fix that after I got the motor looked at. I didn't realize they had hydraulicked it though. All right, so now I'm just gonna be taking things apart that are in the way of me getting to the motor. Some things like this box on top of the intake manifold eventually. Just anything that's in the way that's gonna keep this motor from getting out is gonna have to be taken off. All right, that might stay. All right, so we're just gonna hit a quick little time lapse here. I'm gonna go ahead and take all the hoses off that are just on this left side of the motor, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start taking that fuel rail off, getting those fuel injectors and all the plugs and just a ton of wires everywhere just have to be disconnected. So enjoy watching me struggle for a few moments trying to get all this off, and we'll get back to the check-in. All right, well, I just got back from a break. Let me show you what I've got done. The GoPro died during the last time lapse, and my plan is to finish everything that I can reach from the top today, and then I'll jack it up and get like the exhaust manifold. That may be about it. Oh, the torque converter, a few things on the bottom that I only can access from the bottom. Everything else pretty much I can loosen from just standing up above it. So my goal is to get all that stuff off by the end of the day. I've got like 5 more hours of daylight left because it's starting to get dark late now, but I'm not going to work 5 more hours today, so I'm just going to kind of do that casually this afternoon while I've got a bunch of other stuff to do as well. Okay, so here's what we're looking at. Anything that I don't really need to disconnect, I'm just going to leave in place, meaning a lot of wires and stuff are good to just stay in here, and I should be able to move the motor out with about 1 inch of room on each side is all I should need. So I've just got to slip that flywheel in front of the bell housing and then have enough room on the front to get it straight up. But a nice small motor should come out easy. This is disconnected, but like it's got a few bolts right there that hold it on, and I think there's 1 or 2 in the back. Some of these motor mount brackets might really only be accessible from down below, but things like this alternator, the bracket for this axle here, I can unbolt that stuff from just standing right here in the AC compressor as well. So do that by the end of the day, and then we'll pull the motor out tomorrow. All right, so this is just going to be a quick little time lapse. I've just got to go ahead and try and remove everything else that's part of the motor. The exhaust manifold on the front I didn't really touch yesterday, and then there's a ton of stuff in the back. There's like an exhaust bracket, axle bracket. I'll show you all in a second. We're almost done. All right, well, that's going to do it for today. I've gotten that bracket for the exhaust off, that bracket for the axle right there off. I haven't got to the front bolt on that alternator yet on the bottom because you have to take the the driver's side wheel off in order to get to that. The motor mount on this side is undone. All I would need to do is remove that nut. When I pick it up, it would just slide off of that motor mount. And the transmission and this bolt here. It's really close, so it's going to be a bit warmer tomorrow, and that little bit of coolant that's put on the ground will be evaporated by then, so I'll be able to lay under there no problem. See you then. All right, here we are. It's the next day. Just got a little bit of stuff left to do. We're going to jack it up and get some stuff underneath it. I'll get a time lapse started. Hopefully I'll have the mower out. Hopefully I'll have the motor out in about 2 hours. All right, that's officially it from up here. I remembered last night about that rear motor mount, but I can't do anything else from up here right now, so let's go ahead and jack it up. Well, I just got off the ground because realistically, the only thing I had to lay on the ground for was this, I think. I can't get all, oh no, never mind, I forgot about the torque converter. All right, I just got the bolt off of that exhaust bracket right there, so all I have left are these transmission bolts and the torque converter. There's a little plate covering the torque converter as well. So I just got a moving blanket laid down so I don't get in that bit of coolant that's left down there. And I've pulled out my transmission jack, so I'm gonna go ahead and get that under the transmission to keep it relatively in the same place while I get the lift on this motor to get that out. And I think I'm gonna take the hood off because I pretty much always do that when I do a motor, because the first time I ever did a motor swap, I dented my hood. It was my own on my own truck. So it just doesn't give a lot of room. So I think I'm just gonna cut that little vacuum line there for these windshield wiper motors, for these windshield wiper sprayers, and then I'll just reconnect that with a little connector piece. So pretty much like 2 or 3 things left and I should be able to get this out of here. All right, hood's off. Transmission bolts, torque converter bolts, and those jacks set up and we're ready to go. There may be a couple of other last things, but one of the ones I've been thinking about is these 2 studs right here. So I'm just gonna use little 2 nuts to take those off, but not really giving me enough room to pull it off, those studs. And I don't wanna pry on that, so I'll just take the studs out. Okay, so here's what we're looking at underneath. This is like the exhaust up there I just took the studs off of. There was a bracket right there, but that's no longer attached. This bracket I've undone from the top as well as everything else, except for this little bracket here that connects the motor to the transmission. And then I've got to take this little cover off, and the torque converter's back there. I didn't take this out, so that's interesting. Maybe 1 bolt down here, but I think I've already got it. Connecting the transmission to the motor. And here's that transmission jack under here. So really close. 12mm, 14mm. I'm gonna take that off, take this cover off, and then I'll show you the torque converter. All right, just a minute later, there we are. There's the flywheel connected to the torque converter there. Really like slim design, because this flywheel right here is just that, so. Should be able to slip out pretty easy. And then I can actually just turn this by grabbing the little bolt next to it. The motor spins pretty freely. Alright, so after zipping all those out real quick, I'm just going to take the bolts out of the bell housing. Actually, some of these were in super tight, but we'll get them out and then we'll get this motor pulled out. Look at that. Then got my socket twisted on the extension there. Gonna take these apart and figure out which one broke. Just to let you know, my Duralast extensions have never done that when I torqued them that hard. You're not supposed to put a cheater bar on a wrench like that, but these Pittsburgh ones sure bent up. Just one more, I think.
Okay. Off the turbo? No, that's the off the turbo.
No turbo on this one.
There's not a turbo on this?
No.
Oh, I thought there was a turbo on all cars.
No, just fast cars. Bingo. Separation.
Nice step.
Fell on that jack stand quite a bit. This one. That's why it's called a bell housing.
Is it really?
That was tight, but it came out. That's it. Easy peasy. That was less than 2 hours. I thought I'd be out here for 2 hours today. There's the heart of your car.
Surprising how much more was on the bottom of the top of it.
I'm gonna end it there for right now. Thanks to the people who donated to help us get this new car. And if you want to help out, you can donate at the links in the description or subscribe if you like these videos. Let's go ahead and grab the new motor and get it put in. There's a few things I need to do. Left a lot of the old brackets and stuff on that old motor, so I'm gonna have to get it out, take a lot of stuff off of it before I can drop it in. But I'm hoping to do that by the end of the day, and it's been a pretty long day. It's getting late in the afternoon, and I'm hoping to get this dropped in by the end of the day. All right, I've had my old motor hiding back here behind the Jeep, but it was cheaper to do this first. And I'm trying to save every penny I can right now to finish the 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐿 swap because I hate working out of the Ranger. It just sucks. All right, so here's this motor, and there's some of the brackets you can see right there. I'm just gonna pull it out first, and I'm gonna have to order quite a few things. So a new gasket and stuff, but I'm not gonna need any of that till tomorrow, Saturday. Get these chairs out of the way first. All right, I just got it chained on, loaded up, so let's go ahead and jack this up, pick it up out of here. Crunched my toe when I was trying to pick up one of those chairs. I didn't wear my boots. Okay, out with the old, in with the new, eh? Here it goes. There's the new motor. Don't confuse it with the old one, even though it looks the exact same. Those numbers are probably different. That number is different. That's the other VIN number. All right, let's do this. Terrible luck. Look what happened. Where are they? All right, you can see those little guide pins. Both of them are there. One stayed behind on the motor, one stayed behind on the transmission. So I think I'm gonna have to separate these again to get one of those out. Dang it. I'm just getting all these bolts lined up too. That's super frustrating. Oh well. Well, I actually grabbed one with a pair of vice grips and almost got it out, and then I started smacking it with the pry bar and it's folding out, so almost there. There it goes. Okay. Hopefully that other one goes in though. And that other one got hit just a little, but hopefully it'll work. All right, great. Now I've got 5 different bolts started. None of them are cross-threaded. Here's those wires I pinched in between the bell housing and that motor when I was lowering it in. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those up evenly. Pinched a wire. Oh well, I'll fix those wires. Bummer. Try not to do that to anything else. Let's try that again. All right, so I just wanted to give you a quick look at what happened when I pinched that wire. Now we're gonna hop back into the time lapse because I already have the motor set in. And so we're gonna get everything started to hook back up to this old motor. Or old new motor, I guess. All right, I just got the transmission and the motor mounted up, paired up together. And that side went together just fine. Even though that little round thing was squished, whatever you call that, let me know in the comments. It worked perfect. And I've got those bolts in there, those 5 that I was working with. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that rear motor mount put on and start doing some accessories. I've ordered a front motor mount and some other stuff that I'll do tomorrow. All right, I just got this hood put on. I didn't start the video because the camera was pointed to the sky, but about broke my back. But I got it. It just started to fall over when I was reaching up like this, and I had to go over with it to catch it. All right, and this task is just as tedious as taking the motor out. Now I've got to just spend a little bit of time on a little bit of everything. Gonna go ahead and fix these wires first. I've actually loved using these little heat shrink connectors. They have a piece of solder in them. You can use a heat gun, but I just use a lighter, and you can fix pretty much any wire with some of these. Well, good morning. It's the next day. I didn't really do anything after whatever you saw last night, that little wire. When I fixed that, I kind of just looked around and made a game plan for today. That being said, I've got everything I need to get in that bucket over there and a fuel pump or something else. And I'm hoping that in 3 to 4 hours, I'll have this thing running. Here's an update of what everything looks like. The exhaust manifold won't go into place because the bracket won't slide up past the bracket on the bottom of that motor. I meant to take that off before I dropped it in, but luckily it went into place. However, it is the wrong bracket for the all-wheel drive transmission and not the front-wheel drive transmission, so gonna get a new bracket. Just take that one off, put the old one on, and then that exhaust should go into place. I've got the gasket for that, the gasket for the intake, so just cleaning stuff up and putting everything back together. Okay, there you go. There's the difference in those 2 brackets. I'll put the right one on. But actually, I'm just trying to be smart and take my time. And I was just thinking about the problems that caused with the exhaust. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those studs in the exhaust and get that manifold in place as well. but I'm gonna have to clean that up so I can put the gasket on first. Okay, I've got that pretty much into place. I just had to slip that bracket past the edge of the motor there. No big deal. I'm gonna line this up with the gasket and get the studs in. All right, now that exhaust is in place, I'm gonna put this bracket on. Oh, shoot. Oh, at least it got off. All right, so that was legit terrifying. I was gonna go ahead and spin the motor over to line up the torque converter and the flex plate, and it wouldn't spin. It ended up popping free and worked out just fine, but I was real worried I was gonna have to take that apart again for a minute. Okay, I just got all those tightened down. Just stuck a screwdriver in the teeth on that to keep it from rotating, and that worked perfect. All right, so here's the next update. Nothing crazy, it's just like such little things that I can't even like set a time lapse up for till this point. Oh, that's what it was. The coolant temperature sensor is broken on this new motor. So I'm gonna take that one off the old motor that's not cracked. And then I'm just working my way right over to here, and I'll probably do the alternator first and then that intake manifold after I do that rear motor mount, but that's it. I'd say we're probably about an hour and a half away from being done. All right, so I'm putting the new spark plugs in. It said to replace them with copper every 30,000 miles, but I went ahead and got iridiums anyways because I don't want to replace these in 30,000 miles, so we'll see how that does. I'm gonna go ahead and set cylinder number 1 to top dead center on compression because I'm gonna have to time this and make sure that distributor's set right when I put it on. No sense in doing it twice, so I'm just gonna go ahead and get a compression tester on there. Got one right here. And then I'll just crank the crank over by hand until this builds compression. And then I'll put a little screwdriver, long screwdriver in there, get it on top dead center and set that distributor. Pretty simple. I'll crank it over a few times and then I'm gonna have to look at it. All right, so one of those would have had compression. Now I'll watch it. So I know that's on compression stroke now, and I know it's not all the way to the top, so I'll stick a long screwdriver in and just watch till it gets to the top. Then I'll have to take the distributor apart and make sure that it's pointing on cylinder 1. Pretty close to top. That's the top dead center right there. Then I just won't twist the crank anymore. I know that's on top dead center compression now. I can do the distributor whenever I want to. Well, I think somehow I made a big mistake with that axle over there. I looked at that like 5 times. There's like a bracket and intermediary shaft with a bearing right here. But it's pointed down and it's supposed to be pointed up. I thought I had enough room to swing it back this way, but that is not enough room at all. I'm gonna try and move this out of the way with the pry bar. I'm not exactly sure what I'm gonna do now. I may be able to pull this intermediary shaft out if I just pull the axle. So that's probably the second best option if I can't make enough room down there. Hopefully I can just pop that past. Ugh. But that's definitely something I should have just flipped around before I dropped the motor in. Other than that, everything's looking good. I'm about to get that, well, I'm not gonna put that motor mount on yet. That way if I need to wiggle that around a bit, I can. So I'm gonna wait to put that motor mount on until I go underneath there and see what I can do with that. So take a break first and I'll go check that out. All right, well, I couldn't pry it past there. But where's it at, you're asking? It's still here. I made the executive decision to lose one of the bolt holes. I thought there was only 2. And then when I saw that third one, I was like, you know that's going. So it actually fit past there now. And if it causes some sort of issue, I'll just get a new one. And it's the same amount of work, which is gonna be a ton, that I was gonna have to do anyway. So that'll work for now. Also, I totally haven't even addressed the power steering leak issue. So I'm probably gonna do that after this thing's running. I may just leave a belt off the power steering pump for the first couple of days. If that's got a major leak, and then address that later next week. In a strange turn of events, I only had 2 of those bolts anyway, so it's almost like it was meant to be. Took me a minute to figure out which ones it was even supposed to be because there was only 2. I was looking for the set of 3 that were that size. But yeah, there's 2. It's gonna be missing that one, but I'm all right with that. All right, so we've got one last quick time lapse to enjoy while I put everything back together. Nothing really too crazy putting everything back together. A couple of times I had to take some stuff loose. Oh, I actually did end up leaving the paper towels in the exhaust in the intake manifold for the first little bit while I was tightening everything down, and then I remembered and had to take it back apart and then retighten it all down by hand. That was just the first step where I get everything in place and then I tighten it down with a wrench, so I hadn't tightened it down yet, but a bit of a hassle. That was the only weird thing. Oh, one other weird thing you're about to find out. Holy cow, this gasket was so hard to get off. It's probably been about an hour. And at the end I made some gouges over here where the gasket got real thick on accident. So I just filed off the high spots, and I'm gonna go ahead and just use a little bit of Forma gasket as a bottom layer here for all these scratches that I just inevitably made. Not too bad over here, but right there is real bad. So I'm gonna make sure that seals up nice and well because the new gasket, kind of a metallic one, I'll show it to you. Okay, and here's that new gasket, so kind of metallic. It's not a high heat gasket, or at least not an exhaust gasket, so former gasket's fine here. The head is going to get hot, but best way to seal that up. It's not ideal to use the two together, but should be fine. All right, I just got this cleaned up. Let's put it in. This one, way easier to clean. Okay, here's my little fuel regulator. I'm putting a new O-ring on it because the other one was flat, but now I've just got to get it into place without that O-ring slipping out. Perfect, I'll tighten that down and then get the intake on and the distributor on and time it. Okay, I'm officially done with everything up here except for the belts. I put the distributor right back in the exact same spot it came off of the other car, of the other motor in, because I could just see the little, I guess, oh yeah, I could see the marks on the distributor. I was like, I guess I was timing it to the new motor. They're probably exact same, but I just lined it up with the dust marks on there, so that should be fine for now. Everything else is done. What did I just do? I put the battery on, except for the negative cable there. So I'm gonna get those 3 belts on. I don't remember which size is which, so I'll look those up and then I'll update you. All right, that is it for now. I've just gotten everything done. The last little nut on the alternator tightened up. I've left the belt off of the power steering pump just because I'm assuming that that rack is leaking. I don't want to deal with that right now. I want to make sure that this thing's running well before I put all that effort into the rack and pinion. So I'm gonna give this a couple of test drives without a leaking rack and pinion so I don't burn up my power steering pump. I'm gonna go ahead and swap out all 4 tires because these are winter tires that are on here and I still have my old tires. So do the swap-a-roo and then we'll get this running, hopefully. All right, there's the aluminums back on. That side too. I'm probably gonna need a jump box. I imagine that battery's dead, but hopefully it'll take a charge. It's getting kind of old though. Should still be under warranty. Let's go ahead and start it. Fingers crossed. Just in case it said it was ready. I mean, it's a Honda, it should start. Okay, well, it didn't start. Well, there you go. I have no idea why that's not starting, but it's getting late today and I've been out here all day, so I'm done for today. I guess you'll just have to stay tuned for the next episode to figure out why this isn't running, because I'm gonna get it running. See you then. All right, well, it's now Monday. All right, it's now Monday, nice and early in the morning. It's just warm enough to be out here with the sweater on, so. All right, it's Monday morning now, nice and cool outside. I'm out here gonna look at this. I just pulled that wire on cylinder number 1, so I'm gonna put a little spark tester on there and just see. I think it's not getting spark because I sprayed some starter fluid on there and it didn't even try and fire over once or anything like that. So I don't think it was like a lack of fuel pressure because I had the fuel rail open or anything like that. I'll listen for those injectors firing, but again, don't think it's fuel. I've had this battery charging just for a couple days, and yeah, let's go ahead and get to it. I think maybe I messed up that distributor when I took it apart. The little rotor thing was like really wide and made out of like some composite material, and that was kind of like messed up. Or it looked like when I took it apart I kind of scratched it up. Now I actually have the other distributor from the old motor, so I'm gonna go ahead and grab that if I need it. And if that one works, then I'll take the other one apart and show you exactly what I mean. All right, go ahead. I'll go again. Just a couple seconds. Okay. Yeah, no spark. All right. Okay, so I just wanted to double check there that spark tester was working on my truck. It was working, so I'm gonna go ahead and just swap the distributors around and maybe it'll start. Took me forever to find that distributor buried in the bottom of that scrap pile back there. Okay, so here's presumably the bad one, and this is the old one for this original motor. It's all getting convoluted now. This one should work, this one probably doesn't. If it's not this, then I've got bigger fish to fry. So hopefully it's just a distributor problem. I'm gonna go ahead and swap these wires over, make sure they look the same on both, but I swapped them over one at a time on this one. So I'm guessing it's the same longest there. All right, let's see. Fingers crossed. Okay, might be 180 off, so let me spin that 180. It actually might be this too. I mean, it's definitely this before it's 180 off. Doesn't mean it's gonna run, but maybe. Oh, yes, it's running. Oh yeah, dude, I'm super excited. I'm glad it was just that distributor. I'm gonna make sure this warms up and everything all right, and then I'll update you, but I'm super relieved. Go get my wife and show off. And I forgot to plug it in. I was like, wait, let me try that.
Oh my gosh, you're awesome.
So that's just burning off oil and stuff from when I had everything apart. So it'll smoke off a bit, but once everything warms up, it should stop smoking, and we'll check for leaks and everything.
You were so smart to keep the distributor.
Yeah, that was good luck.
Nice, Daddy fixed our car. Daddy can drive our car.
Okay, so here's what the distributor looked like yesterday after I kind of yanked it apart. It's pretty messed up. I don't even know if I'm made it that messed up, but regardless, it wasn't working, and now it is. So I'm super grateful to finally have gotten this done. Just glad it's over with. My kids have a new car now. My wife has a new car. They can do their own thing. Thanks again to everybody for the support, for the subscriptions. If you made it this far, definitely hit that subscribe button. If you like the tools I use, check those out in the links in the description. I'll see you on the next episode. That's a job well done.